Good day to you, I'm Ryan, and I'm a big fan of old school arcade games, and one of the most venerable arcade gaming companies, Data East, has released some compilations on the modern cartridge based retro console known as the Evercade, with a good selection of their classic coin operated wonders on it. Today we're going to take a look at one of these, the Data East Arcade 1 collection. So, when I first saw this pack, I knew I had to get it as it features 10 of Data East's best, including Burger Time and Sly Spy. This compilation is quite well rounded with a variety of games covered, and like all Evercade carts, comes in a stylish box with a full colour manual. This manual has a bit of information about the Data East company and an introduction to the controls and a little bit of lore for each of the 10 games. This cart works on Evercade or Super Pocket systems, but I've mainly been testing it on the Evercade VSR. Let's take a look at some of these games, shall we? Burger Time. This all-time grade is a staple for many arcade gamers and a personal favourite of mine for its simple yet challenging and addictive gameplay. In Burger Time you must assemble a number of delicious pixel burgers by running over them to knock the ingredients down, while travelling a maze of ladders, while being pursued by angry ingredients that didn't quite cut it as burger toppings. Although I'm quite partial to a fried egg on a burger. Like most classic arcade games of this age, there aren't many levels and they do loop continuously until all lives are lost, but the whole draw is the high score. Can you become the gourmet burger master or languish in the pound shop microwave snack bin? The game is quite addictive with a satisfying gameplay loop, and while sometimes you can get stuck climbing a ladder, the movement is generally smooth and you get used to such hiccups. Now, evading the angry ingredients is a different story, as while you can flatter them with burger bits and sprinkle emergency seasonings on them to stun them, they tend to move in unpredictable patterns, making each playthrough unique. The sounds are deliciously crunchy, and the looping music, while a little annoying after long periods of play, is quite catchy. Overall, Burger Time is a fantastic classic arcade game with a great gameplay loop, and I've had no issues running it on the Evercade VSR or Super Pocket. Sly Spy. Sly Spy is a classic high-action, high-difficulty arcade game where you play as the titular spy, who may, or may not, be sly, and battle against an evil organisation across 8 varied stages. The game is a classic side-scroll with light platforming and unending hordes of bad guys entering the screen from every direction imaginable. But don't worry, you have an assortment of weapons to deal with them in more or less one hit each, and while you have limited ammo, you find more than enough to stay topped up as long as you're not too trigger happy. The game's incredibly fast paced and the endless enemies encourage you to keep moving and blasting your way through, and while that leads to taking some cheap hits every so often, the game keeps the fun and pace quite high. There are several level types, with my favourite being the motorbike stage, so there's plenty of variety to keep things fresh. Controls are easy to pick up, and while the sounds aren't fantastic, the music do be pretty popping. Sly Spy is a great addition to the Cartridges lineup, and while difficult at times, this is a fantastic little spy-themed action game. Lock and Chase. Lock and Chase is a riff on the classic Pac-Man formula where you collect points in a maze while being chased. In this one, your stylish little guy rocks up in a just as stylish little automobile and wants to collect as many coins and cash bags as possible and escape the maze without being caught by the security dudes. While it seems like a Pac-Man clone at first, and well, it is, it's also got one big difference, and that is that running into the security dudes after picking up a power-up somehow leads to you losing a life. You'd think you could at least run past them even if you couldn't eat them Pac-Man style, right? This simple little game is the perfect substitute for Pac-Man on the cartridge, and while it may not hold your attention for long, it's a nice little distraction. Dark Seal 1, Gate of Doom. Dark Seal, otherwise known as Gate of Doom, is the prequel to another game on this list called Wizard Fire. Monsters have started to invade the kingdom of Etruria through the Gates of Doom, but 4 heroes will brave the onslaught and save the day. This is one of my favourites on the system. It's an isometric action game set mainly in a large tower where you battle all sorts of gribblies and dodge traps while climbing higher, fighting through dungeons, battlements and more. The game has 4 characters, each with their own playstyle and magical powers, although the magical powers do rotate over time, so you don't always have access to the one that you need. Along the way you collect power-ups that give your character a much needed boost to their power, and of course racking up that sweet score. The game can be quite challenging, but in a fair way that keeps you invested in the journey through the tower, and has a decent amount of replay value thanks to the 4 different characters. Overall, a great addition to the list, and one of those games that I think is a must play if you like old school fancy action games. Dark Seal 2, Wizard Fire. Dark Seal 2, otherwise known as Wizard Fire, is another personal favourite of mine. In this fancy-themed isometric action game, you play as one of 5 characters. Each hero has a different play style and speciality, with a knight being my personal favourite for his charging, spinning flail attacks. Each character also has a selection of spells, and like Darkseer 1, they do rotate over time, so again, it's not available sometimes when you need it. They do all have fun and interesting effects though. You can also collect treasures and items that will power up your character, such as increasing the speed or attack damage. There are a lot of enemy types, and each boss, while sometimes frustrating, all have different tactics needed to beat them. I do have to mention though that while I really like this game and this cartridge is a great way to play it, I've noticed some slightly random slowdowns and stutter on occasion, but don't let that stop you from playing the game. The issues are quite rare and it doesn't diminish the game too much. Chain Reaction. Magical Drop. Chain Reaction, or Magical Drop, is one of those classic arcade puzzle games similar to Bubble Bobble, where the goal is to match pieces together to form large chains of similar pieces and get a ridiculous high score. Pieces drop in from the top of the screen periodically in random patterns, though where this thing differs from something like Bubble Bobble is how you actually match the pieces. You choose one of the pieces to drop into your little dancing character's hands, and then catapult it back up for a chain reaction and score points. While something like Bubble Bobble can feel more random, this game feels like it gives you more control over the pieces you can match, and for someone like me who's not particularly good at these types of puzzle games, more control and time that I have to decide where to throw a piece is always a plus. While it starts out slow, the level increases over time, causing a faster drop and more lines dropping at the same time. The art style for this one is really a standout, as the background character is animated beautifully, making cute expressions depending on the board situation. Bad Dudes vs Dragon Ninja. Bad Dudes vs Dragon Ninja is another action game similar to Sly Spy, but focusing more on melee punches, kicks and weapons like nunchucks. In this game, the president has been kidnapped by an evil group of ninjas called Dragon Ninja, and it's up to 2 bad dudes with very 90s action movie names, Blade and Striker, to save him. Like Sly Spy, enemies swarm in from every side of a screen while you kick and punch your way through 8 varied stages, and while there's no stages like Sly Spy's motorbike or parachuting stage, the levels are quite varied, seeing you go to forests, caves and battling on the roof of trucks driving on the highway. The game feels a lot tougher due to the short range on your attacks, and it's quite hard keeping up with the massive waves of enemies that constantly attack you, so while similar to Sly Spy, it does feel more challenging. Breakthru. Breakthru is a really interesting little isometric side-scrolling game where you play as a jeep blasting your way through 5 enemy strongholds to retrieve a stolen secret fighter plane. The game constantly scrolls, and while you can reduce or increase the speed, there's no stopping to catch your breath, as waves of tanks, helicopters and all sorts of enemy vehicles close in while you need to dodge obstacles and traps. This is one of those rock-hard action games where you die in one hit, so you need to be super careful. In a way, it feels very similar to a shmup where you need to constantly dodge enemy projectiles to survive. This one is an awesome little game and there's nothing quite like it on the cartridge, making it quite a unique addition to the roster. Darwin 4078. Darwin 4078 is perhaps the weakest game on the list for me. It's quite an early top-down shmup with a punishing difficulty. Like shmups, you battle your way across a stage, blasting enemies and collecting power-ups that increase your blasting power and give you a higher score. I'll be honest, this one was way too hard for me, so I didn't really play too much of it, but it's nice having a shmup on the list, and those of you that love challenging games like this will have a great time. It's just not for me. Tumble Pop. Tumble Pop is a very addictive classic arcade game where you use some kind of vacuum suction device to pick up enemies and blast them across the screen, racking up loads of points for chain reactions of monster takedowns and picking up goodies that they leave behind like coins. The levels are quite short but can be challenging, and is a pure joy for lovers of high score style games. The artwork is pretty good, the characters have kind of cute little style that almost makes you feel bad for blasting them across the screen. And there are even boss fights too. All in all, a fun little addictive puzzle game that's unique enough from the others on the list to more than earn its spot on the cartridge. So, there's a look at the Data East 1 cartridge and all the games on it. It was one of the first Evercade cartridges I bought, and I think it's a fantastic starting point for any new Evercade collector because of its varied collection of games that are at least decent. Each one of the games is a classic from Data East, and there's plenty of hours of high score chasing, dungeon delving fun to be had across the 10 games. Even if there are some genres you're not too invested in, like puzzle games for example, there's enough on this cartridge from other genres to earn a purchase. Thanks for joining me for this look at Data East 1 arcade collection for Evercade. Have you guys picked up Evercade or Super Pocket consoles? Let me know in the comments. Thanks again, and take it easy.